presentation. And yes, if you don't want to be filmed, turn off your camera and change your Zoom name. I personally think that it would be nicer if we could speak directly face to face with each other. And yes, why do we film this? We are going to gather the ideas proposed here today for our future archive, and in part of an online exhibition will present these ideas that we gathered in all Europe Jams together to the European Commission. First of all, I want to give you a short introduction on what this whole Europe Jam issue is all about, and yeah, just give a short introduction to our project. The Europe Jams are a part of the European public sphere, which usually tours around Europe to bring people together under our traveling discussion dome. Some of you probably already saw this before on the picture I shared on my screen. And due to the current situation with the COVID-19 pandemic, we decided to move our project online and target it especially to a younger audience, and so they can freely share their ideas on topics that they themselves propose to other young people. I'd shortly just like to thank the Alfred Toepfer Foundation, who are enabling this project and making it possible for us to pursue it. And yeah, so how do we start off? We want to make sure that everybody can speak, so everybody can just freely discuss their ideas, voice their opinions. Under the participants button at the bottom of your screen, you can find a raise hand function. Use that one if you would like to ask a specific question, or just wave your hand in the to the camera, and hope, well, I will try to notice it. And yes, if you want to comment on a specific thing that the speaker that is just speaking just post, just wait until the last person has finished speaking. I see that many of you have already some experience in promoting democracy in Europe. So to get to know each other, I would just shortly ask you to introduce yourself, possibly give us a short 3 to 4 minute rundown, or just a short overview of your project, and tell us what democracy and participation personally means to you. Yeah, but just keep it short in order to yeah, let everybody in this room speak out for a short while. I'm not sure who wants to go first. Maybe we can start off with Flavio. If you will want to start, go ahead.
Sure. Hello, everybody. So I'm Flavio Grazian, and I work for the European Citizen Action Service, which is a pan-European NGO active on the field of European democracy and citizens' rights. Currently, we're, working for citizens and putting citizens in the heart of decision-making processes has always been our goal, and therefore we are obviously interested in enhancing citizen participation and in general, like democratic processes. We're currently working on a lot of projects in this field. Of course, the European Citizen Initiative has been always important for us, and we are currently involved in the management of the collaborative platform the European Commission gives to European Citizen Initiative organizers. Then we have other projects, such for example as Nexus, which is aimed at enhancing digital participation of newly arrived immigrants, providing them the possibility to explore how they can use technology and digital tools to participate in the European Union. But I mean, to make it short, like we really believe that like during these times particularly, it's really important to provide people with new ways and new tools to foster their participation in democratic lives.
I think we will talk about this issue later as well, about how to actually enable people to participate. I will just continue maybe, or if somebody wants to go next, just do so. Otherwise, I will just ask, maybe Rhys, if you would like to introduce yourself and your project to us, that would be interesting.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So my name's Rhys. I'm currently a student, an Erasmus Mundus and a student, but I spend the vast majority of my time with youth engagement with democracy, especially non-formal educational projects. So for the last 2 years, I've organized more than 10 different model European Union conferences, which I think is a wonderful way of fostering and making the EU tangible to youth, which is generally my focus. And it's something I'm passionate about, and I look forward to discussing this more with you over the hour to come.
Thank you for joining us. Now maybe the next person just take the virtual microphone. Octavian, would you like to tell us about EUmans and what you're doing there?
Hi everyone, and thanks for having me and for having EUmans tonight. So I'm Octavian Lazea, I'm Policy and Advocacy Officer at EUmans. For those who don't know what EUmans is a pan-European... Yes, okay, well. For those who don't know what EUmans is a pan-European movement of citizens acting to impact the European Union through official participatory democracy instruments. So basically petitions to the European Parliament and mostly European citizen initiatives. EUmans as a movement is built around two principles, which are the first one is the respect for the rule of law, and the other one is the promotion of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And that's why at EUmans we had two active European citizen initiatives. The first one was for the respect of the rule of law within the European Union. And the second one, which is actually ongoing right now, is StopGlobalWarming.eu, which is a European citizen initiative to introduce in the European Union carbon pricing in order to have polluters pay and use that money to cut taxes on workers. You know, as part of our activities to promote participatory democracy and democracy in general, we very much focus on activating existing instruments. So basically European citizen initiatives and petitions to the European Parliament, but also to strengthen them, because as we all know here, I guess, European citizen initiatives and petitions to the European Parliament are two very weak instruments, mostly because they have, you know, a really small impact on real policy making, but also because there's little knowledge or little information about these instruments. I mean, if I think about European citizen initiatives, like most of the European citizens don't even know what it is. So at EUmans, we believe that one of the, let's say, most promising way to strengthen these instruments is actually to use them. So and besides strengthening the existing instruments, what we do is also promoting democratic innovations such as citizen assemblies, and this is part of our work at EUmans and also in the context of Citizens Take Over Europe, which Daniela knows about. So yeah, this is EUmans in pills.
I just want to say, Octavian, well done for keeping your cool there during the Zoom bombing incident. It was.
Unfortunately, that happens sometimes. As soon as the sessions get bigger and grow, yeah, unfortunately. Maybe I would invite Juliette to shortly talk about yeah, maybe her interest in, or just personal interest in democracy and participation, and maybe just a short overview of Voters Without Borders, which we already had on our first Europe Jam, and I'm really happy to have you here again in our room today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure for me too. I'm here with Anna, who is the coordinator of the initiative. So we are the Voters Without Borders team, and we launched the European Citizens Initiative on the political rights of the 14 million EU mobile citizens. That is like citizens who are living in another EU country than their country of citizenship, because we noted actually several issues that concern both democracy and participation, actually. And this issue, we think, justify our ECI. Like, for instance, 5 EU countries disenfranchise their citizens after certain periods abroad. That means that those citizens, when living in another country, can't vote back home. And it's a real problem for democracy. And there is also a clear problem of participation, because, like, for instance, in the 2019 European election, only an estimated 10% of the 14 million EU mobile citizens voted in their residence country, and only 20% voted in their country of origin. So that shows that most EU mobile citizens are not voting, even if they have the right to. So the EU cannot credibly promote democratic reform across the globe without first fixing the lack of political rights of its mobile citizens. And therefore, we made our ECI with 2 main objectives. The first one being the reinforcement of the already existing political rights for those mobile citizens. So right now, they have the right to vote instant for municipal and European elections in their residence country, but as I've said, most of them don't use that right because of a lack of information and of bureaucratic barriers when registering to vote. And the second objective is to add new political rights, such as the right to vote for regional and national elections and for referenda. And we think this would be a great improvement for both European democracy and European citizenship, because it will put an end to the disenfranchisement of some European citizens, and because we believe that the right to vote should be granted to everyone that contributes to one society, not only to the nationals. So yeah, we are really glad to join this hopefully fruitful discussion.
Thank you for being here. I think we will talk about different ECIs later in the talk as well. But yeah, I would invite Omri, Mr. Omri Price from Alliance for Europe, just shortly give us a short introduction, please.
Yeah, hi there. So it's great to be with you, and thanks a lot for the invitation and everything. So essentially, Alliance for Europe was formed in the run-up to the European elections. We were actually just about 2 years old today, I think, almost. We got together with a group of, different pro-European movements, concerned citizens, and so on, and said, how do we activate citizens in Europe to make sure that, democratic values are promoted, and not the kind of authoritarianism that we're seeing on the rise. That was the initial thinking. And essentially, our theory of change says, there are major challenges that we're facing. I mean, right now I saw a report about Arctic methane escaping. That's obviously a threat to the whole of humanity. The only way that we are able to function as democracies to deal with these challenges is if citizens take action. So what we do is we work on civic tech solutions, bringing together civil society actors to work together to scale up their capacities and their impact by using, tech tools and so on. We work on digital communications and countering disinformation, and then on innovative campaigning and citizen participation. we've been working with Democracy International and many of the others here on Citizens Take Over Europe, for example, as a citizen participation initiative. And we're looking to innovate further. I think essentially, yes, we're facing a lot of these challenges and threats, but at the same time, even now in these difficult times with COVID, if we all come together and work in new ways together, we can build the kind of future that we actually do want to live in, and we can build a very promising and prosperous European democracy. We just need to keep working at it. So pleasure to be with you all here, and looking forward to the discussion.
I really hope that some exchange will put will give us some more ideas on how to improve participation in Europe, and especially youth participation. And next on my list, I would like to ask Nevena if you're there, please.
Hey everyone.
Hi.
First of all, thank you, Anna, for inviting me. I'm Nevena Todorović from the Youth Initiative for Human Rights, which is a regional network in the Balkans working on post-conflict reconciliation. And I think I can add the interesting perspective of not being a European Union citizen, but still being in Europe. And what I think is really crucial is that we redefine what it means to participate on a political level, because oftentimes in countries such as mine, which is formally a democracy, but not really in practice, party-level politics is not really something young people are going to go to, because they have lost any trust in democratic institutions. There is no accountability on part of the ruling party, and the opposition is just as bad. So what we do as a network, really, we on our way towards Europe and advocating for the European Union as the only viable solution for the region, is to really redefine what it means to participate politically. And for us, that is mostly through intercultural exchange programs and connecting young people from many different organizations, or really supporting and growing and capacity building of grassroots activism. So very, on the street, public work, raising awareness about things, and calling the government to be accountable on issues of transitional justice, dealing with the past, which I think, as you can all imagine, our region sorely needs. So I'm really looking forward to the discussion and to seeing how you all define political participation as well.
Thank you. One more person before I would just start into the discussion. I would ask Michele. He joined us a little bit later from CIVICO. Would you like to introduce yourself and maybe tell us about CIVICO Europe?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Daniela, Anna, to send the invitation. Happy to be with all of you. I know already some of you, and it's always a pleasure to connect with different NGOs from all over Europe. With CIVICO Europa, more than 3 years ago, we gathered, as I think many of you, for the fear of these national populist forces growing up in different countries, for the Brexit problem, and this sense of the citizen not feeling involved by institutions. And I don't know, I'm from Italy, and normally was the country of Altiero Spinelli and Trot, but normally was a country where there was always a very high percentage of Euro enthusiastic, and exactly around the time of Brexit, this percentage was going down and down. The same for France. And so our analysis was that was happening precisely also for what Elena just said, that there was a lose of faith in the process of party politics, and also probably for the ineffectiveness of the European Union project, that at some point after Maastricht got stuck a bit in the more ambitious political horizon. And so we were thinking, and now it's a common sense, but we're thinking that was precisely putting the citizens at the core the European project, the necessary move to go forward to accomplish this project. And for that, we started to get different testimonials from different sectors of society, from arts to sport, and also from so-called politicians, and writing the tribunes on K newspaper all around Europe in the same day in different languages. And then lately, before the European election, we managed to have a massive consultation online named EUmans. We managed to have to collect the priorities of citizens from all the social context, not the usual robable suspect, let's say, as us probably, to allow citizens to auto-select the best, what they think were the best proposals, and bring this proposal to the European Parliament in front of the representative of all the democratic political groups present in the Parliament.
Thank you for that insight from the Italian perspective as well. Maybe one last person I'd like to ask about, yeah, how they got into the field of democracy participation, and that would be Anna Comacchio from Waters. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Well, as Juliette already said, we are part of this team. At the same time, I am a project manager of ECIT Foundation, which is a foundation working solely on the concept of European citizenship and citizen rights attached to it. So we explore a bit the concept of what it means to be a European citizen, what new rights can be added, especially to make it also more appealing, not only to the population on the move, like us, people living abroad and making use of these rights every day, but also to people that don't have those possibility, or, well, they didn't move for some reason. So we are exploring different possibilities in terms of environmental rights, social rights, health rights, and we have several discussions with MEPs, but we also engage with other civil society and academics. So we work on different levels. Right now we are working on this ECI on political rights, but we are also exploring like way to make it also attractive, not only for EU citizens, but also beyond the borders, other European countries. So we are really, we really want to expand this concept as it is. And yeah, we engage with different methods of participation because we, well, we are a very young task force, so we believe, again, not in only representative democracy, although our ECI is focused on that, because first of all, we believe that it's important to strengthen that, at the same time working on more participatory tools such as ECI and petitions and other instruments of democracy. And yeah, so we're really looking forward to the discussion and also how to improve this European public spheres in order to work more effectively cross border. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. I'd start off with a question, just the general question, more or less. In the last few years, there has been a widespread sense that liberal democracy is in a crisis right now, and but there has not been any clear-cut way to define what this crisis is all about. Some keywords that have often come up were, for example, the rise of populism, or the deconsolidation of democratic institutions. But I would like to ask all of you, just if you want to answer the question, just do it. What do you personally see as the biggest challenge to European democracy and citizen participation? Yeah, it's a rather broad question. Rhys, you raised your hand.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a very important question. And I think the participants we've had in our Model European Union simulations, the people who come along and who simulate, step into the shoes of a politician or an interest representative for a day or for a week, many of them simply don't quite know how different elements of European democracy work. And many of them have never actually been involved with it before. They just happen to have seen this event was going on in their city and decided to attend it. So I think one of the major challenges we have is how to reach out, but also how to make it relevant. And I think we have to ask some very honest but difficult questions about whether or not, especially regarding youth, whether or not the instruments we have are resonating, are particularly relevant to the youth of today, or perhaps we're looking backwards towards instruments which are extremely relevant decades ago, but maybe do not take the same shape or form today. So that's two things that I would say. Personally, I think that we need to challenge the instruments we have, but also know how to reach out better, to make them more relevant. And that's where initiatives such as NEUs, which make it tangible, I think are so useful.
That's a really interesting point that I also frequently thought about in the past. Daniela? Wait, I can't. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think the question of what is a huge challenge to our democracy is something we can think about forever. But I think a big challenge is just making democracy more accessible, and just once every 4 years, just once at every election cycle, but even in between those election cycles, there has to be more opportunities to get involved in one way or another. And I think we see that there's this growing frustration with the current system that Europe offers, that most member states offer. And there's a reason why there's a rise in protests and demonstrations. It's because people are frustrated. There's not enough opportunity to get involved in between, and issues then come up. There's no other way to voice their concerns, to get involved and to say they're on one side of an issue or another, or they want to see things develop in one way, other than they have to wait another few years for the next election. And I think that frustrates people. So it's really interesting to hear the different initiatives from all the different organizations. I mean, many I'm familiar with already here, but some of the initiatives and things that you're doing to try to make those possibilities more often and more frequent between those 4 years. So it's not just we're sitting on the sidelines in between those 4 years. And then I think learning from each other and really pushing those tools to also get them institutionalized and making sure that they are actually anchored into law is then going to be the real challenge, the next big step.
Maybe some of the others who have not yet said anything, do you want to add something? Maybe Jascha, are you there with us today? Or Henrik, otherwise, yeah.
Yes, I'm there. It was just, sorry, it was about a question of participation in general.
Oh.
So what is my personal opinion on this? I think it's just a huge problem in general that probably a lot of young people as well, I mostly work with young people and students, that they just feel like their voice doesn't get heard. Even though we have a lot of things going on right now, such as Fridays for Future, it's still the general thought from a lot of friends of mine, a lot of people I work with, that still nothing happens in the EU which actually goes for the same goals as the ones which young people pursue, which is a big problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm happy to build on this maybe to a certain extent, because I think that the biggest problem is to show the benefits of participation and to make people understand that they, not only that they can make a difference, but that it comes with a lot of good changes in their everyday lives if they do so. Because I just see that there's so much competition of attention and how you can spend your time, etc., both online as well as offline, but probably more online. And people are just have so many options of spending the time, and being politically active and participate is, I think, does not come directly with the revenue and the, let's say, the payoff that you get from other activities. And I think that's a big challenge. So kind of displaying better the benefits of being politically active.
So now the next step would be to answer the next question: how to actually show these benefits to a younger audience as well. We might talk about that later as well. But I would invite maybe Shanne, if you're there, tell us what is your biggest fear, the biggest challenge you see for the future of
for me personally, I'm a student. I'm not sitting here as a representative of an NGO or something, just very interested in a topic. I do a lot of investigations for my studies and also for previous work into democracy and participation on local, national, international level. And also what I see, like, I think the precarity of a lot of young people, especially, and also certain parts of the population that probably none of us really belongs to, that's also very problematic, because those, like, the people that are sitting here, they are not the problem. They are basically engaged, but to go beyond groups that need to be reached, I don't have any clear answer for that. I think we should definitely take these kind of socio-economic factors. Like, I think it's a really big problem, a very big reason why these people can't be reached or don't have time to participate.
I think we are already seeing, even if we just look at this room, we are already seeing a few really impactful proposals on how to get more young people involved, whether it be ECIs on the one hand, or the Model European Union on the other hand. Maybe there's some way to work that problem out. Maybe Raya, if you're there, in case you're there, could you maybe tell us about what you see as the biggest issue, or whether you would agree with the others that participation at its basis is the biggest problem.
Yes, hey guys, I'm here. Can I answer just in a little bit later of a stage to listen a little bit more of the conversation? Sorry, I was doing two things at the same time.
No problem at all. Otherwise, Anne, if you would like to add something.
Me, or did you say Anna or Anna? Yeah. Yeah, I think there are just a lot of challenges also, and a lot has been mentioned already, that, for example, democratic efforts don't necessarily translate into action. I think that's also what we see with young people, for example, like they're so active a lot of the time, but then they can't even sign an ECI, for example, because the signing age is 18 and not 16, or with elections, it's the same thing. And yeah, I agree with you, Rhys, that probably a lot of the instruments are, well, outdated or not really up to date, and maybe we could discuss about this a bit later too, like what would be concrete instruments that we could use. But yeah, I just think this follow-up that is not there, that's one of the main reasons why people get frustrated and then stop participating, or just don't participate in the first place. And also maybe stop, it's a bit cheesy to say, stop believing in their own ideas, but like if no one ever picks up on them, then at some point maybe they just stop thinking about improvements, or just don't think their ideas are valuable anymore. So
I think many of the issues that we just brought up can be also traced back to the current state of representative democracy, in a sense that maybe representative democracy at its base is a little bit too static to adapt to current or future problems. But democracy should be able to change. Democracy and participation should be able to change as well. And how would you say what could the development of representative democracy in Europe look like in the future? Will we see more a rise in direct democratic elements integrated in our decision making? For example, more e-voting or more, even more output for the ECIs. Would that be, do you see that as a future that is realistic in the next, let's say, 5 years? Octavian, I just ask a few people, otherwise just raise your hand.
Well, I don't know if it's feasible in the next 5 years. I wish so, but I pretty much agree with you when you say, you know, that representative democracy is maybe too static, and that's why I think we need more participatory democracy. You know, because at the end of the day, what citizens try to do is to add something, is to push you know, representative politicians to do more and to do best. So this is why I think we need participatory democracy, because, you know, politicians so many times they fall into the trap of electoral dynamics. So they're only looking forward to getting reelected, you know, and not to get things done. That's why we need citizen impact, you know. But of course, I think and I hope and we'll see more e-voting in the next years, maybe even within the next 5 years. I hope so. But if I can go back a little bit to what we were saying before on, you know, the challenges on democracy and participation, if I think at our European democracy, I see, and I think this is the result, you know, of many years and even decades of fights and battles for human rights in general. And when we talk about the crisis of liberal democracy today, I think this is pretty much about, you know, respect for the rule of law and for the human rights. When I look as a young person, you know, when I look at what's happening in Hungary or in Poland, where recently the Supreme Court just somehow abolished abortion, I'm like, I look at the future and I see like it's challenging, you know. And I think this very basic human right respect of for human rights, fundamental rights, and civil liberties, and all this stuff. This is the future of democracy for you know, for guys like us. We all grew up in a very liberal context. So and I guess we all want to have our fundamental rights protected in the future. And I think this all goes back, you know, to the current negotiations in the council on the conditionality for rule of law, in order to link it to the EU budget. And I think this is a major challenge for the future of our future democracy. And this is kind of a test, I think, for the current elite leading us. And just to conclude on participation, what we saw during the last years is that basically people really want to participate in politics. And I think about here, you know, Fridays for Future. I also think about, you know, all the social movements and protests that have been going on.
We cannot hear you. You are muted, right?
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah. Now.
Okay, cool. Because I was receiving a call. What I was saying, and I also think, for example, at the 5 Star Movement in Italy, which is a political party, but which is based on, you know, more participation in politics. So I think that the challenge for, you know, for participation in the future is really making people's voice heard and really count. And here I think that we need to strengthen the existing instruments and make them really work and efficient. You know, first of all, we're starting with the European Citizen Initiative, and just to conclude here, another major issue which I think falls both in the challenges for democracy and participation is the lack of transparency, because you know, especially in today's world when everything is so fast and you really need to be up to date with everything that's happening, we don't have enough transparency. And here I think at the Council, at the European Council, and for example, on, you know, on the lack of transparency concerning the Conference on the Future of Europe, and this is something which destabilizes democracy as such. In the first place, and in the second place, it doesn't help fostering participation. You know, so I think these elements are key for the future of democracy and participation. All right.
Thank you. A lot of valuable insights in what you just said, I think. Does anybody else want to add something on what Octavian just said? And otherwise, just yeah, maybe continue with what the current system will look like in the near future. Do you see any possibility to see more direct democratic elements integrated? Flavio, do you have any idea?
I believe that for sure, like I mean, we already seen a transformation in the recent years. So particularly when we relate democracy to technology. So technology is here to stay and will stay with us. Therefore, like forms of like more democratic and technological engagement will rise. Of course, this will need to go on one hand with the fact that like we need to be able to integrate these forms in a good way to make them accessible. And on the other hand, to also look at the bad aspects that like technology also can bring, like in forming a public sphere in general. So I think in 5 years we will see some transformation that are in line of what we have seen in the past 5 years, in the past 10 years. But like we as civil society, we need to work on how to channel this transformation for the good, for the better way. And just to bring on a bit of what Octavian would say on the European Citizen Initiative. So this, for example, is an instrument that is here and has been here already for a few years. And I agree with you when you say that like it's definitely not super well known. Even like for people that work in the field, sometimes like they don't know what an ECI is. However, like it is our duty to make this instrument well known, to make this instrument like accessible by European citizens, because I mean it's obviously a unique instrument on the other hand. Then, to me, the most important aspect is also like when you bring people together and when you make them participate, is to see an impact of their participation. Because if these exercises, if these tools and the ECI, I completely agree with you on this, does not have an impact, a real impact after that, like you make, after you spend efforts and time in like activate yourself, is obviously problematic.
Thank you. I'm not sure, Omri, did you want to add something? You just posted your hand.
Just to bounce back on some of the ideas that are moving around. Of course, I agree with every word that everyone has said. You know, I think that yes, it's true. We need more participation. We need more avenues for participation. But I think there is also an important element here of why should people care? You know, obviously in the field of work that we're in, I've been in many different discussions about participatory democracy, and a lot of the time you need a master's degree in order to really kind of understand what's happening in the conversation, right? There's a lot of university degrees between the people that are around. Now, if I'm, let's say, an Uber driver that drives the car for 14 hours a day and then maybe sleeps in the car, which, you know, I've spoken to Uber drivers here in Brussels, where I am, that have told me that this is their lifestyle routine, because, you know, that's kind of how it is. Or if you're in an Amazon warehouse, or, you know, if you're just working in a big corporate and you have a busy life, why should you care about democracy? You know, there's this kind of mythological European Union saying of, you don't fall in love with a free market or with a market, you know, with a common market, however the saying goes. I think you can also say, you know, you can't really eat democracy, you know. So I think that what a lot of people are seeing around them these days, and what drives a lot of the frustration, is that our culture prioritizes being rich, being a billionaire above anything else, and yet people are seeing that their wages are not rising, you know, that the opportunities are being taken further away and not closer to them. And this engenders a lot of distrust. So there is not enough trust in political institutions for people to even care about participating to begin with. So I think that what we need to also think about is, how do we drive a meaningful agenda for people, you know, for what we all should care about? Like, you know, how do we get, you know, better wages, better education, you know, a more sustainable economy, or explain to people why a more sustainable economy is important? How do we tackle, you know, this debate around immigration, where people are seeing something but they're being lied to actively about what they're seeing? So how do we redefine that narrative? And how do we make it clear to people that you have something to gain here? You have something that belongs to you that you need to take. You know, your prosperity depends on this, your future, the future of your children depends on this. And I think this needs to be built into our participation and deliberation mechanisms. And however we do this, we need to keep that perspective in mind of, what do people really have to gain for their own future in this, you know? So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you. We'll continue with Octavian. Afterwards, Michele. Wait for a second.
Yeah, I just wanted to react to something Flavio was saying. I mean, I pretty much agree on everything he said, but just on one point, I think we're not on the same page. I mean, he was saying that it's part of our duty to make ECIs known and, you know, to make them work. Well, I'm not sure about this. I don't think it's our job as civil society to make them known. Huh? I think it's more about institutions promoting their own tools, and, you know, and making them like making people aware of their existence. And here again, I'm thinking about the European Citizen Initiative. Almost nobody knows about it. And, you know, one of our main campaigns at EUmans is about information and the right to information, and the fact that, you know, for this Time I'm Voting campaign, European which was the campaign, you know, to promote the last European elections. The European Union has been spending 36 million euros to raise awareness and to make it and to inform citizens on challenges and opportunities of the elections, which is fair enough. And hopefully in the future we'll spend even more money on elections. But the thing is, while European institutions have been spending all this money for, you know, representative democracy, they've not been spending almost nothing on participatory democracy. I mean, all the communication around the European Citizen Initiative falls within normal budget lines. There's no budget line for informing citizens on participatory democracy instruments. So part of our work is campaigning for equal dignity for participatory democracy, because I think it's institutions' role in the first place to make these tools known. And Of course, as civil society, we need to, you know, to spread the word and to make it work. But it's definitely not our job to make it known, broadly known at European level.
I think both can be possible. Like on the one hand, we have the political institutions or the current institutions on the one hand, and the civil society on the other hand, that should promote these issues. Michele, you
Yes.
wanted to
No.
ask something or add something?
Yes, Omri made some very good point. So of course you cannot eat democracy, but without democracy, often you risk to have nothing to eat. As the studies of the Nobel Amartya Sen, for instance, show about the connection between scarcity, hunger, and absence of democracy. No, here at the European level, actually also in some member states, as was said before by Elena. But at the European level, we have a democratic deficit. Of course, some of us already underlined that at the end, the European Parliament can decide whatever. The European Parliament that truly represents proportionally the people of Europe and the different ideas of the people of Europe. But at the end, you can change Dublin system of migration, for instance, and integration of migrants. At the end, the European Council would vote against what the European Parliament decide. So here we have, I mean, just to simplify, of course, here we have a problem, and we have, of course, a lack of democracy. And some of the things Omri was saying, that, for instance, Europe sometimes seems not to offer substantial things to the people, or not enough for the hard times in which we are living. That it's because of the institutional mechanism of Europe until now. For that, of course, participatory and deliberative democracy are the core of a renewing of European democracy, and to accomplish the European project also without falsely talk about European Federation. Maybe some of us look at it as maybe the very important goal that Europe really needs to deliver on all the matters should deliver. So to have probably a federal government would be maybe leverage to deliver as European Union should. For that, I mean, some of us are educated in different format and context. For instance, lately in this Citizen Takeover Europe coalition that gathered until now some of like 30 NGOs with the support of at least 50 NGOs. And we are trying to, for instance, to build up a blueprint for a European Citizen Assembly as a possible new institution of the European Union system. There is the Conference on the Future of Europe, we know, and many of us are advocates, for instance, Daniela, Omri, they are advocating to have a more democratic Conference on the Future of Europe. But I think, yes, that we can build all together a strong vision on what democracy could deliver if will be better managed at the European level, and not only at the European level, actually.
Yeah, thank you. I think there was another question from Rainer's side as well. If you want to just do it.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question as well, but I see Octavian has his hand raised, so he might have another comment on the previous. Oh no, was it a mistake? Okay, good. Yeah, so thank you so much for your inputs, everyone. It's been very interesting to hear from you, and it's been quite inspiring to hear from young people that are involved in building working towards a better future for Europe. And unfortunately, I want to bring the conversation over to the pandemic, COVID. And I know it's something that we're almost sick of at this point, pardon the pun. But Yeah, so I just want to find out, so how have your projects been sort of challenged by COVID, and how has it impacted youth democracy and participation? What have your strategies been to respond to the crisis? So that's my question to everyone, and yeah, I'm interested here. Especially, I want to ask Rhys as well. I know I read on the website, I did some research on the Model European Union in Strasbourg, and I see that the conference was actually cancelled this year, which was definitely it must have been quite a, because I mean the whole idea behind it is getting together once a year and doing the simulation. So that must have been quite a challenge, right?
Sure, I assume I can answer. Sorry. Yeah, no, I think obviously it's affected all of us. So although I feel very lucky to talk about Model European in Strasbourg, I have no doubt that every project and every NGO and every person here present has been impacted enormously. In the case of MUS, yes, we meet up in the European Parliament in Strasbourg. So to not have the ability to do that takes away from some of the impact when people actually are in the place where they can really get into the shoes and realize how they have an impact because of their environment. So that has represented a lot of challenges. And in our case, and many other people organizing simulations, we're fortunate that we can still do that to some extent online. Indeed, I've come from one just about an hour ago. And what I would underline is that, yes, there are many downsides and many negative impacts, but with certain projects like ours, it also opens new doors and opportunities. So, for example, when it comes to reaching Strasbourg, we try and make it as inclusive and accessible as possible. And we try to reach out to communities, especially those perhaps who are, uninterested or not uninterested, but perhaps who aren't aware of certain opportunities. This now with the pandemic and online activities has kind of opened a new door in terms of there's certain barriers, be it financial, be it physical, geographic. These don't apply to the same extent. And so we're trying to take advantage of that and trying to present and engage young people from around the world in a way that we've never been able to before. But I admit that this is a unique, perhaps, example in the context of our simulation, and perhaps that's not as relevant for many other projects here. But we've been impacted, but we've sought to look at the benefits and to try and introduce more blended activities as well, because we have no idea how long this is going to go on for.
All right. Anyone else have something to add to that, or have any experience to share from their own projects? Be quite interesting to hear from you. Daniela, yeah, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, Reiner, you probably already, you know this, but maybe just for the others also in the group. I mean, at Democracy International, I wouldn't say we changed, we had to like completely change projects or topics, or that we have less capacity for something. I wouldn't say that has changed. It's more, I mean, of course, the working environment, okay, working from home, I think this is pretty standard across the board for everyone, but it's more where we rely on those face-to-face events. I mean, for example, like this event right here, this would have been a European Public Sphere talk under a wooden dome in a, maybe during lunchtime in a public space where people are just walking by and have some time, or have already their free evening after work. And now it's a little bit different, of course, because it's more it's us. Some of us know each other. It's not really those strangers from the street. This changes this project a bit now, so we have to change a little bit our thinking and how we approach this project, because the idea was always, let's take these spontaneous passersby from the street and let's talk about Europe with them. And all of us in this Zoom room have already talked about Europe many times, but it's interesting when you're sitting down with someone who has never given a second thought to Europe, what they have to say. So yeah, this project has changed for one, and just other things that we've had to rely on where we usually do face-to-face. I mean, our Global Forum on Modern Direct Democracy that Caroline can talk about, she organizes that. That's the biggest forum on, biggest conference in the world on modern direct democracy. We've done that online this year for the first time. So there were challenges, but that also presented opportunities, of course, like with every online opportunity. I mean, if we would have had this Dome talk, for example, in Cologne, we probably would not have gotten half of you on this call. And it's the same thing also with the online forum. It makes it more accessible, but I think it's harder to reach those bubbles that you wouldn't usually reach. So this is the plus and the minus with kind of going full online with our work.
Thanks so much for that input, Daniela. Anyone else want to add to that?
Maybe if Nevena is there, I would like to hear how it is currently in the Balkan, and how the epidemic or the pandemic has changed your work as well.
Well, I would say quite significantly, because we here in the Balkans are still pretty new to digitalization. And the civil society here is extremely reliant on in-person events. So going, into the online format has really been quite challenging. We haven't had Zoom bombings yet, but any day now probably. I think people are adjusting, but the issue is that donors are mostly. I think it's going to become a problem for many organizations, not only in the Balkans but everywhere. Is that donors are going to start reducing their funds, because they're going to realize that more and more events can go on online, but this will never replace in-person events and the networking that happens naturally there. And this networking is exactly what leads to greater political participation, because these people will connect, maybe form an organization, a movement. So I think it's really unfortunate, especially since numbers are rising. But I don't know. It's worth a shot trying to digitalize things. So let's see.
Thank you. Daniela, do you want to add something to Nevena?
Yeah, just something I also remembered. I mean, not so much from our work, Democracy International side, but this was mentioned a little bit by some people on the call. The conference on the future of Europe, which was supposed to launch this year, actually back in May already. So we're already many months behind. And this was the big flagship project of the European Commission, which gave a lot of us, when it was announced last year, a lot of hope that, okay, maybe this could be really the opportunity where citizens are brought as equal partners, as promised, to the same decision-making table. This could be the start of maybe treaty change, something that is not talked about, people don't like to talk about it in the EU institutions. It opens a Pandora's box, but suddenly here we are talking about that there's this opportunity for treaty change through this conference. And now, half through, because of the pandemic, half because of institutional deadlock, we don't have any idea when this conference is supposed to start. And it's supposed to be 2 years long. And the next European elections are coming up soon too. So there needs to be enough time to get that done, to get that reporting. That would have also, by the way, brought in, or maybe, that's also the recommendation of civil society to bring in candidate countries, at least as observers there too. So, to have the picture of a greater Europe also in mind. And I think, this poses also a huge challenge for us because there was a lot of momentum around this conference, also with civil society. We do have our Citizens Take Over Europe Alliance that has actually about 50 NGOs now as part of the coalition. But at the same time, we don't want this conference to just be the same people who are in this Zoom room and just in a different kind of infrastructure. But we want those Europeans who don't usually talk about Europe. We want to hear about what they want for the future. And it's going to be harder and harder to lose them when this continues to be pushed back. So, of course, the pandemic is happening. We have to live with it. The institutions have to live with it. The conference has to live with it. But I think there could be a better job about how to get the conference started still in a way that's, COVID friendly, COVID safe, using online, but still making sure that those sectors of society that are maybe not so don't have access really to digital tools, that they can also take part. And so I think that we've maybe as civil society done a little bit of a better job of adapting to COVID and changing our work and going digital than I think even the institutions have.
Maybe, Caro, can you tell us something about your experience when it came to organizing the Global Forum on Modern Direct Democracy in the last month, in comparison to other direct direct forums that have happened in the past?
Yeah, I think a lot of what I would say has actually been mentioned. There's nothing that can replace in-person events. The Global Forum on Modern Direct Democracy is what, as Daniela mentioned, it's the biggest conference that focuses on direct democracy and citizen participation. And so we have it every year, and we're usually joined by activists from all over the world who really need, like it's been mentioned before, who need these events to network and to learn from each other, to exchange experiences, to form alliances. And that is, of course, something that you can't do in a Zoom room. So this was, of course, an emergency solution, and everything went really well. I think we had a really great digital forum. We had over 500 people who joined. That is more than probably could have joined us in person. But I think a lot of the benefits that you need as civil society to do your work sort of get lost in the process, and that's of course unfortunate. And there's no replacement for that. There's no way to do that online.
Thank you. Is there any other question from the group? Maybe. Otherwise, I will continue with another question that recently came up in my mind. Maybe I'll just continue. Recently, I talked to some of my friends who are also around the same age, you know, late 20s, early 30s. And I asked them how they would generally feel about a more direct involvement of citizens. And most of them replied by saying, yeah, we do favor direct democratic elements in policy making. But most of them were actually afraid that these elements might be compromised or instrumentalized by a populism wave. And I would like to ask all of you, how could direct democracy respond to the threat that populism poses on, or does it even need to address that threat? If somebody would like to answer on that, just raise your hand. Caroline?
I can say something short about that. I think this fear is something that we hear a lot in the work that we do. And actually the practice does not confirm that. Like when you look at countries that have direct democracy, this is not something that that produces itself. And actually what I think, and what I think also the research shows, is that direct democracy, or good, well-functioning direct democracy, like bottom-up, where citizens can come up with proposals themselves, it actually takes a little bit of wind out of the sails of populists, because it takes away this feeling that you are powerless, that there's a political elite and they don't listen to you. And so it takes away this us against them thing, and it brings you into a collaborative, cooperative way of doing politics. And I think it's much more healthy, and it provides less of a feeding ground for this sort of extreme populist politics.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that, Caroline. Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and you see it. I mean, look at when the French and the Dutch voted on the EU constitution, and they don't really have any instruments of direct democracy. Same with Brexit. You can see this trend where it's sort of a shock, you know, whenever people are finally asked to voice their opinions, then they you know, sort of decide to really let's say go against the flow, so to say, you know, so or try to be rebels or whatever. So I think as long as you keep people engaged, then you can avoid these these outcomes, you know, that you might get, that we saw also in a couple of referendums in Europe.
Thank you. I would like to especially ask those of you who didn't have the possibility or didn't talk that much so far. I'd like to invite all of you to.
I see Rhys has got his hand raised as well.
Sorry.
There.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Rhys.
But I have already spoken a lot, so I'll make it very, very brief. I would simply state that it's perhaps a cliche in these discussions to mention it, as it always is mentioned, but education is key. It doesn't matter if we kind of wish to promote more direct democratic processes, or we wish to reinforce or to try and build upon the representative and even participatory democratic processes that we have. But if we do not make it tangible, if we do not make it so that the processes and also then outcomes are tangible and clearly visible, then I don't see any means by which we can actually empower citizens. And for me, that is why education at its core has to play a fundamental role in this regard. And it's why it's extremely frustrating to see that, you know, when it comes to civic education, political education, these are virtually non-existent in so many countries, including the UK, and I won't get into the Brexit thing right now, but I didn't grow up with any sort of civic or political education in my education, and I think that's a real shame. That isn't to say that, of course, we can talk about representative tools and encourage it, and maybe people may not engage with it or resonate with it. That is perfectly fine, but if you don't even try and have that discussion in the first place, then I'm afraid that if you wish to use the tools that exist, it's simply never going to work. So, cliche, I'm afraid, education mentioned here.
Henrik, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I just wanted to flag, totally mirror what Rhys say and totally support it. And in fact, there is an initiative to establish a European agency for civic education. It's just launched, and there's like 2 activists in Germany that want to push for this. I'm happy to share the link in the chat box. But in fact, I also think that citizenship education and civic education is key for this. And I mean, I'm coming from Germany. We have quite a exhaustive system there of this kind of education, and I don't say that it's the best system ever, but at least there is great elements of this, I think, that could be inspiring for some European pushes on this side. I'm happy to share the link in the chat.
Yes, please do so. How does the topic of political education look like in Sweden? I'd like to ask Yasha if you can tell us something about that.
I also have to say that I'm German originally. I only live in Sweden for 2 years. And that's why I couldn't say anything about Corona, because until now it was all fine in Sweden, but now it's getting worse. But in Sweden, I feel like it's going really well. When I was in Germany, I had more the feeling that not the education was a problem, it's more the visibility actually to participate. And I heard recently that Denmark, for example, actually has a youth climate council on domestic level. So young people who come together, talk about climate, what they would like to do, and which actually gets even to the government and to the ministers, who then bring it forward. And I think these kind of things are just amazing, but sadly also not in the whole EU. They are only in one country.
So I'm sure that they could serve as a role model for other countries or for the European Union as well. Maybe I'm not aware of how it is like in the other Nordic countries, but maybe how does this topic look like in France? Okay, Caro just posted something in the chat on the Climate Council. Otherwise, Juliette, can you tell us something about the
Yeah, so Karen is right. We had a citizen convention on climate that ended last year, I think, and so it was random people actually. Like, you get a letter in your mailbox saying like, hey, you have been designated to just sit on that convention. So basically, everyone could be designated as a citizen to participate, which was a good thing. And interestingly, there were only a few refusals. I mean, people were eager to participate and to participate in the decision making their voice heard, and they were pretty sure that it was going to happen. But in the end, like right now, I mean, they've made several proposals. I guess like 60 proposals, and the President Macron had rejected 6 of them, the major ones, obviously. So it was a bit of a disappointment, I would say, and it's going very slow actually on that thing. Like the writing of a law with all the proposals is not going fast enough, I would say. So it was a really hopeful thing in the beginning, I would say that, but the problem is, we talked about trust in the institution, and France had a really big shot and a really big occasion to gain trust again, I would say, and it's missing the point right now. So there are a lot of criticism, like, okay, they have done it nice and democratic and so on, but it has no real impact, I would say. So that's a bit of a problem. Yeah, that's for France.
I think, Daniela, we already talked about this exact issue in the past. How do you see it? Like also when it comes to the impact or possible impact of ECIs, what would you say? What would you change personally about that?
I mean, generally what to change about the ECIs, when we said already a lot, not that many people know about it, but really, I mean, the ECI has to sell itself. We can do all of the great public awareness campaigns, and I think that's good. We should do that too, civil society along with institutions. But I think in the end, I mean, we need just a stronger response to European citizens initiatives. And this is something we've been campaigning for seems like the beginning of time, but really since the beginning, since the ECI has been established, we've been saying we just need a stronger commitment that there's going to be a follow-up to successful ECIs. We did have some, now to maybe we're bragging a little bit, but we had some good successes in this, in a campaign we did with the ECI campaign and a coalition of others, where we were lobbying the European Parliament to increase their response to successful ECIs. And this was a success. So now the European Parliament holds plenary debates with the possibility for a vote on successful ECIs, where in the past, before this campaign, they were only holding just public hearings, what they're still continuing to do. So they can continue to increase this, of course. This is at the initiative of the European Parliament. And it's easier also to follow than the life of an ECI when it goes to the European Parliament, since it's, I guess it works a little bit more transparently. You can also either re-elect or choose not to elect an MEP, whereas if it goes into the European Commission, it just kind of goes into a room. It's discussed in the back, and you're not really exactly sure. You can't follow the discussion as much as you can on a live stream of the European Parliament, for example. So yeah, we want to push this more, and we always this is our biggest point when it comes to the ECI and how to improve it.
How do you actually lobby in that direction, if I may ask? Just
yeah, so that was a campaign that we did. It was a combined open letter, which is also very popular now with the COVID times, but it was even before COVID times. The open letters have existed and have been successful. We had, I believe, 70, if I was now in the office, the banner would be right behind me, but I think we had 70 organizations who signed that open letter. So a really wide coalition of NGOs, not even working specifically just on the ECI. And we did also a nice street action where we had a banner in front of the European Parliament, and we were handing out with this open letter to members of European Parliament, to their assistants that were walking by, a rolled up open letter with "Forget me not" flowers. So to say, forget us not, don't forget us, us who signed the ECI, who support the ECI, and we want to see this go through. And that ended up being that was a vote, that was a discussion at the time, that was timed around a vote in the European Parliament. we of course wanted it to go full, that they would have a vote on successful ECIs. They didn't agree on that, but they did say we'll hold at least plenary debates and there will be a possibility of a vote. So we still consider it a success.
I think this is also good. This is a good start. We will have to come to an end soon. So maybe if there's any question from any of you, especially those who haven't said as much before so far, just post it in the chat, or yeah, Anne?
Yeah, I have a question to everyone, or it's more of a thing I would like to know from everyone. Maybe we could do a little round where everyone just says one thing, like one idea they have for democracy in the EU, because we've been talking about our work a lot, and yeah, it would be nice to gather all these different ideas, just very shortly, concretely, what could be an idea. And I can also start. Well, I have two things actually. Lower the voting age to 16. And yeah, a follow-up to direct democracy instruments like the ECI. Yeah, Max, maybe you can always say who comes next.
I would just start with Rhys, who's on the top left of my screen. Maybe if you want to.
From my perspective, youth perspective, transcend consultation. Too often is youth involvement and engagement with democracy considered consultation and reduced to basically speaking to, not listening, not involving.
Next would be Yasha here on my screen.
I would go with transparency, actually, to have just more general knowledge of what is actually going on, even behind the things we actually see.
Carlotta?
Hi, I was thinking about this the whole conversation because there was so much new input for me here tonight. And I think for me, as I'm not involved in any NGO or any program right now, I think I would connect it with lower barriers to get interested in politics. I hope you understand what I mean.
We surely do. Anna, afterwards.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. I think it was a very, very nice talk. So thank you very much for joining. And for me, I think I really like the idea from Voters Without Borders, so that you can participate according where you live and not really according where you come from. So I think that's a very, very nice way of participating in your local area. So yeah, that's a good way, I think.
Thank you. How about Teresa? She would be next on my screen. In case you're there, Teresa. Otherwise, we would continue with Daniela.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the European Citizens Initiative already a little bit, but I think it just has so much potential, and it's a little bit a dream that we have that the ECI in its current form would be just the first step to get an initiative on the desk of the Commission, so that where you would have the same story now, 1 million signatures within 1 year, that would go to the Commission. They would either respond or not, as they can right now. And if they don't respond, or if the organizers say, no, we don't think this is the idea that we thought for this initiative, your response, that there would be allowed to be a second collection of signatures. And then with a much higher hurdle. For example, I don't know, let's say 3 million, 5 million signatures. If this is reached, I mean, that shows then that there's really a lot of popularity for this initiative, that it could be, then it would launch a EU-wide referendum. And we think that this is a really great opportunity to introduce EU referendums is through this bottom-up approach, instead of then, you know, a plebiscite like Brexit style thrown at us, but really bottom-up, use the momentum of the citizens on a topic. So I would say evolve the ECI to really reach its potential.
Thank you. Afterwards, Shane, if you're there.
I'm still here. I agree with what people said before, civic education, lowering barriers, but also still keep on looking for new tools, maybe like decentralized, deliberative, democratic tools with a hybrid internet component, so just to make it more transnational. So in order to connect people with each other, like all these things, they are very important, I think.
Flavio.
Yes, very good points, all of you. I would say definitely explore new ways of like making people active and engaged. Also evolve the current ways and like taking stock of what we have learned during these years. And on the other hand, really provide everyone the opportunities to participate actively. So provide civic education, digital education as well, and also addressing infrastructural problems when we're talking like through digital technology, such as like digital divide around Europe and these kind of things.
Caroline?
Yeah, what's left to say? I agree with everything that's been said. I think more differentiated, lower hurdles, easier to use tools for democracy, just in general, different kinds of tools, because not everybody wants to run a citizens initiative, but maybe if I get selected to be on a citizens council, I would like to do that. So just different complementary tools.
I think Tassilo, you haven't said anything so far. If you're there, maybe just a quick idea thrown into the room. Otherwise, I would just continue with Octavian and Omri afterwards.
I very much agree with everything that has been said so far. As far as I'm concerned, I would say that we need three things. First of all, digitalize democracy, so that in order to make it really accessible and transnational, we should make it effective, so that in order to foster, democracy and non-disenchantment. And then finally, I would say, what was my third point? Well, I don't remember. I just make it. I just write it in the chat if it comes to my mind.
Omri, how about you?
Hey. So yeah, again, I have to find myself agreeing with what has been said. I really enjoyed this conversation. What I would say is needed is massive investment in civic education. So providing citizenship education to everyone, because everyone needs it. We all do. Especially in this digital situation that we find ourselves in. And I would also say that investing in civil society, making civil society funding available, and funding for the rule of law and fundamental values and so on, is really important in the European Union, and that's something that we should insist that the Commission does, and make sure that the Council votes for that kind of stuff. So yeah, that would be what I would throw in there.
Thank you for your points. I'm not sure if Freya and or Teresa are there. Yeah.
Yes, I'm here. Hey guys. So yes, it's been really great hearing the ideas of increasing citizen participation on a European level. To me, I think the biggest issue is what Flavio mentioned, is that citizens really need to hear back the impact of their input. So we can have all the methods of participation that we wanted, both digital and face-to-face. But if they don't see that this leads to anything, like it becomes, I think, useless, and they'll just stop participating. So I think that's for me, one of the biggest issues. So.
Teresa, are you there, or Tassilo? Otherwise, I would. Oh, otherwise, I would just yeah, give us a good ending to this session. Personally, I think I personally thank you for your input today. I would say that I personally learned a lot of your experiences and ideas, and we will be hosting more Europe Jams in the future. The next one will be on Tuesday, the 10th of November, with an open discussion on social justice, which is an important topic that will also be crucial in the future. And if you have the time, feel free to join. Same time, same link in 2 weeks. And thanks for coming today. Enjoy your evening, and stay healthy.
Bye. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.